All right. How we doing? All right.
Hey, Brian.
Another week in the books.
Halfway through the year.
That's right. That's right. Welcome everyone to the Reboot. This week we're going to talk about. We're going to do a deep dive into some goal planning and touch on KPIs, what they are, how to possibly just strategically develop and use them in your business. Before we get into that, we are the Reboot. Meet every Wednesday at 1:30 for your viewing pleasure. My name is Brian Bracci. I'm with B&L PC Solutions, and I'm joined by two of my friends today.
Yeah, I got to say, though, every time you say we are the Reboot, I don't know, I just cracks me up inside. Brandon Bowers, Eisenramper Managed Technology Services out of South Florida.
And David Luft with LDD Consulting out of the green chili capital of the world,
Nice.
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
There you go.
Introed me to the green chili pizza. Very good.
There we go. All right. So businesses today, there can be some struggling with internal communication or organization, especially with some of the people that still have remote workers and are embracing that remote workforce. Trying to keep everything aligned can certainly be challenging. So we're going to discuss different professionals and services and options that we've learned about over the years, and we may name drop on some of the products that we've used and that we're familiar with, and some of us have implemented at least some or most of the structure of the services that these guys offer, and it's good stuff because there's quite a few different options that you can use, and you may take a piece from a couple of different authors and professionals that we know, and use a little piece for one thing and something else for something, a different part of your business. So Brandon, with that, you want to introduce or talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess just to kind of start us off, I want to go back and talk for a second, like thinking about when you were starting your business. When I first started up, you're kind of just doing things that you feel are right, right? I want to say shooting from the hip. You don't have like a true guide for what you're doing, or you don't think that there's anything out there. So kind of just letting things run. And what's the saying where it's like running by design or something? I can't remember it, but if you don't plan around it, right, it's just going to happen, and that's the process. But instead of just letting things happen, there's a lot of pre-built out frameworks out there. I think the two biggest ones, at least that I hear about all the time, depending on, I guess, some of the circles that we run in or you go into, but I hear these talked about across every type of vertical or industry, which one of them is Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish, and the other one is Traction, sometimes also referred to as EOS, which it's Gino something. Is it Gino Wickman?
Gino Wickman, yeah. EOS is the entrepreneurial operating system. You may have heard of it, but EOS is the acronym that is very popular.
And the nice thing about those is, it gives you the underlying framework on like, what do I need to do in different areas as it pertains to marketing, cash management, accounting, sales, and it gives you the structure. I feel like that you can build up those departments, processes, strategies around goal planning. I find or have found that EOS or Traction is easier to follow as a small business. Rockefeller Habits is great. There's a lot of really good content there, but that's where I've really gotten a lot of value. And I know you guys will share some of your experiences, but when I joined separately Entrepreneurs Organization a while back, EO follows a lot around what Vern Harnish goes over Rockefeller Habits, and it just really reinforced so much in terms of how to plan. And they focus these days around each of the building blocks that those books kind of go over again: sales, cash management, operations, execution, and having that framework available versus just shooting from the hip was a game changer for me.
Does he have multiple books on that, or is it just that one book?
I mean, I know Vern Harnish has multiple books. There's I want to say probably 2 versions of Rockefeller Habits.
Okay.
With Traction,
There's a bunch.
there's
There's like,
2 there's 2 primary books. There's Get a Grip, and then there's the standard Traction. So Traction is like, I'll call it the handbook guide. Get a Grip is, I forgot his name off the top of my head, but it's like a business fable that leverages the framework and ideas around the framework on how a
oh,
business would
what the
potentially
heck is
implement.
EOS is the other book I was thinking of, but it's
Oh,
right. It just kind of defines everything there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What was your experience, David?
Well, I think, and I'm not great at this, but I think the biggest thing is you got to come up with the goals where you want to end up at, but then you have to break all those down where you've got the accountability to get there and steps to make it there. It's like you eat an elephant a bite at a time. So what is this piece that we're going to do? And then the other part that is helpful is if you hold people accountable on a regular business, on a regular, just on a regular
Basis.
current time, every
Yeah.
meeting. And that's what like Traction and things are great for, because they help you identify the best ways to lay out the meetings. But actually,
Yeah, I think something super important there is, no matter what system you use, like both, whether you use 2 of these or something else that's out there, what's great about these is they really lay out all the details of, like, how do you run a meeting? How do you do a quarterly planning meeting? What should you be doing annually? What does that look like? What are some of the exercises? What are the next steps? And to kind of dig further around goal planning, for me, what was really helpful is, as I started going through some of these exercises and looking at, hey, where do I really want to be? Some people are not going so much towards the 10-year anymore. At least that's what I hear from a lot of other business owners, just because things change so often. But looking at a 5-year plan, hey, where do I want to be in 5 years? Okay, well, based on where I want to be in 5 years, what do I need to do in 3? And what do I need to do this year to
Right.
help
It's
me,
right. Go backwards.
move the needle to get over there? And okay, based on that, what do I need to do this quarter? And now what do I need to do this week? And who do I need to assign, in terms of some tasks, which then it drives those meetings, right? And it drives your accountability list that you were talking about.
and then if you bring it up every week, people are actually held accountable and they don't get off track on what they're trying to accomplish. Because it's so easy nowadays just to get off track.
I find what's also interesting is, so it's a great tool to use internally for meetings, I think, and driving accountability and tracking that. But you can also have, Traction, they call their meeting level 10 meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
I started incorporating level 10 meetings into other peer groups, and it just completely changed the way that, we thought about accountability, and we're getting value out of those meetings. So, I mean, even if anything that you take out of some of the content out of these books is the meeting structures are phenomenal, and the whole the ideas work outside of just your business, and it helps other business. Like, when I was in a peer group in EO, we were all in different verticals, right? I'm an IT MSP provider. I had people that own like dog shops selling dog clothing and things like that, but we all had the same problems. We were all talking about cash, people issues, execution, how are we planning? And we were all able to keep each other accountable for different tasks and issues going on, and help each other plan using these frameworks. So it's universal no matter what business you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've actually sat in on level 10 meetings that are through their website, and they actually have timers going, and there's so you're following not just a written agenda. You're actually held to, this is it. Next topic is up, and we're talking about it, and it keeps that, because otherwise, as you all know, I mean, it probably happens. You can go squirrel away and talk about something for 20 minutes, and then you lost the core focus of what was supposed to happen during that time, and then you're not there's no progress, or you're limiting your progress, because there's no, again, accountability is huge. We try to, even in our meetings, we
Okay, your time's up, Brian. We're
that's
moving on.
so you need to hold accountability for people and call them out on it. Like, what do you need? What's missing? Why didn't you meet this whatever it was for this week? And if they can't answer that, then give them either it's a lack of resources, lack of knowledge, lack of training, who knows? But at least it's identified and addressed to help get to that goal.
And I think keeping those meetings on top, because no one wants to add another meeting each week, right? Especially if you're not really getting value out of it. Um, keeping people on track. I, I mean, it's interesting on how deep these frameworks go because they even like tell you how to address some of those things and make sure somebody like, hey, somebody's accountable for tracking the time. Somebody's accountable for keeping the meeting on track. And if you're getting
Right.
off track, like they're supposed to police that, right? So yeah, that's that's a pretty good point. I think also incorporating, so we're talking all about goals and accountabilities, is ensuring that um, you know, different places call it different things. I always hear it called as a scorecard, and that you like tie scorecards or job descriptions kind of around a person or a role. And then we were tracking that in our meetings as well to make sure like you knew without a doubt whether you and your role are successful right now at any given point in time, or you're successful this week or not successful, and basing that around not just a feeling, but around KPIs or numbers like that you can look at without a doubt and you know how things are going. Are you guys incorporating that type of stuff around your meetings or planning
Well,
sessions?
the scorecard, what I found is it's not. I mean, it can be collaborated collectively as a group, and talk to the people that are doing the roles, and you can build the scorecards like that. But like you mentioned, it's really for the role, not the person. So that role needs to have these things. So you can,
Yeah.
like you're talking about, you can have totally different career paths going, different companies, but for example, a marketing person or a bookkeeper, like here's the scorecard for that person. You may get some information from somebody else that you're not even thinking about, but it should be defined in that role. So we try to every 6 months review that scorecard to make sure that it aligns with the direction. Because if you have a poorly executed scorecard, and it may not align with your company goals in your 1 year, 3 year plan, and you may need to tweak that to whether it's matching, trying to meet certain KPIs or goals for that person, and you can tweak that and say, you know what, this needs to be incorporated here, so we can try to achieve this goal.
From coaches that I've always worked with, they would always really harp on having the scorecard created before you hire someone, because at the end of the day, a lot of times it's a gut when you're the owner and you're running the business, right? Again, you're shooting from the hip. Hey, this feels right. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just go with it, versus really planning it out strategically what you want to do. And going through the process of creating a scorecard for a role really helped me in that understanding, okay, what am I really looking for? What's going to be their day to day? How am I going to measure that? Does this actually tie to my goals and what I'm trying to
Right.
do? Which, maybe the goal is this year, I'm trying to get out of a certain role or function or something like that. And so that's what I'm like, hey, yes, it ties. And then how can this person be successful? So how can I measure them against a metric in the future versus, again, going back to it's just a gut feeling. Um, that for me was ultra helpful when it came to hiring, because it made it easier for me to determine if I wanted to move forward or not, versus just thinking, oh, I liked this person. He seemed pretty good. Hey, does it match the scorecard? Is he going to be a fit here? He or she going to be a fit here? Does it look like this person's going to be successful? That was very helpful for me. David, I mean, how have you used scorecards? Has it helped you?
When we do them, we use them in our meetings just to track the techs and what they're accomplishing, and if they're getting things done. And it is helpful because, as we hear a lot, once you start measuring something or reporting on it, you're going to improve on it. And they were I was looking at some Andy Bailey stuff, and if you write your goals down, you have a much better chance of achieving them. They were saying like 4% of people who don't write their goals down actually meet them. And I've seen that in the last 5 years since we've been in this group, that just writing them down, even if you're not really focusing on them, just makes a huge difference. And I'm at a place where I never expected to be.
I mean, if you don't even write them down, like they're never going to be top of mind, are they? How often are
No.
you going to think about it? And you know, for me, it was really helpful not only having it written down, but having it on my wall next to my desk or wherever I'm working on a regular basis. So every once in a while, I have a break in between a meeting and I look back at it and I'm like, okay, hey, this is
It's there.
something
Yeah.
that I said to myself. I wanted to make sure that I'm like pushing towards. What am I doing today? Am I doing anything that's actually like helping move the needle on this? And if not, and something that really helped me with that, it's not necessarily about goal planning, but staying accountable for those items was blocking off time in my day for either more strategic thought or focus on some of my quarterly goals that I was focusing on versus just,
Doing it when you
taking
had
all of
time. Right.
yeah, just
Yeah.
taking all the minutia that came in that like it seems hey, email came in, okay, let me focus on that. That's priority. And this thing came in, phone call. It's like, hey, for this hour or 90 minutes, and I think Vern Harnish always mentioned, like, if you go up, I don't remember if it was him or Darren Hardy or someone else we've seen or heard of at some point, but like after you go over 90 minutes, there's some exhaustion point, right? Where you can't strategically think as well anymore and you need a little bit of a break. And so I would either try and block off 60 or 90 minutes whenever I was doing stuff like that to really focus. And like you can really make a dent when your inbox is off for
Yeah,
an hour,
exactly. Shut
your
your
phone
yep,
is
work
muted.
offline and yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Shut off, put your phone on D&D and that's it. You can really, like you're saying, I mean, that's exactly what I do. Work offline and take that half hour a day, whether it be beginning of day, end of day, when you have the time,
Yeah.
it's but you need to really be committed to it and not just ad hoc, like in your head, I'll do it next week. No, if you don't do it next week and block that time, it's the same reason why you didn't do it this week.
And it needs to be time where like, hey, I'm not going to move it for something else every single week
Right.
because some other priority, right,
Yeah.
came up. Because that's what would happen in the beginning for me, anyways. It's like, oh, hey, this seems important. I'll deal with this later. I gotta, help this. Like, you gotta help your customers. You gotta service. I mean, you have to do those things, but you do need to make sure you prioritize some strategic time around your goals and moving those things forward and even figuring out what those goals are, because like there's nothing worse than just letting things happen. And maybe things will work out for the best, but was it actually what you wanted as the end result, and what you were planning for? Probably not, because you weren't planning anything.
Right.
It's, as you mentioned, it's easy to get distracted on different things. And one thing about goals is they say keep it limited down to maybe like 3, where you're
Yeah.
really focused on something and get it accomplished. And because it's, especially, I have a hard time not having 20 goals.
Yeah, I really like the traction, um, whether you want to call it code word or whatever, but rocks. I like the sound of it. It's a big boulder is what I think of in
But
my
you get
mind when
that's
I think
exactly
of
you have a
rocks.
visual.
You can't
Right.
move it.
Yep.
It's, hey, this is what I'm focusing on knocking out. And it's not going to be something super easy, right? It's not a little pebble. Like maybe some of your weekly tasks that you're working on breaking off of the rock are little pebbles there. But um, yeah, this is, a big lofty goal that I want to get done for this quarter. That's going to, you know, strategically chip away at my even larger annual goal, which even larger 3 or 5 year goal. I just because we're getting lower on time. Like for me, what was most helpful in doing any of this stuff, the books are great, but it was also difficult to get implemented if you don't have someone helping you. Um, I personally got the most help out of I know there's coaches around and Vern Harnish has his group. I think it's called Gazelles. And I want to say they have an affiliation with EO. I mentioned them a few times, but for me, EO was phenomenal being part of that organization. Um, Especially when you're a smaller business, they have this program called the Accelerator Program. Businesses under $1 million join accelerators, and it's much more structured. You meet quarterly, focused around specific days, execution, cash, people, um, and they give you all the tools to help you implement, as well as they cycle out different peer groups with a coach that's helping
that's
you
good.
get these things implemented. So when you're starting with nothing, like it's game changing. And it's also great because it's not a sales opportunity, but you're making great relationships with other business owners, and like that, I still meet up or talk with the guys that I've had in groups for years now. So for me, EO has been phenomenal. I don't know if you guys are doing anything else like that or have
We
worked
never
with any
did that. I
coaches.
always listen to you talk about it, but it definitely we never did that though. I mean, you want to touch on real quick just SMART goals and why they're important?
Oh yeah. To be honest with you, I don't remember. So when you're coming up with a goal, they always say you want to make it smart. But what is the acronym? It's something that's measurable. I, I'm gonna
We
have to
can look
look
it
it
up.
up
I
now
don't.
because
I don't.
I I can't remember anymore.
It's got a time sensitive where you
Yeah.
put a deadline on it. It's realistic and achievable. I don't remember what the S is though.
Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time based.
Yeah.
And attainable is important. Like you want a bit of a stretch, but you also don't you don't want it to be such a stretch that every quarter you're missing all of your goals, because that's kind of demoralizing as well. You want to have some wins, right? That start stacking up and helping you snowball, but it shouldn't be too easy, right? Where, hey, I finished my goal in a weekend.
Right. Well, just for
And
example, saying increase sales is not a SMART goal. If you say
yeah, I want
bring
to add
on
50,000
exactly, put
by
a
adding this
dollar
number of
amount.
customers by
Exactly.
this date. And exactly, you want to be able to measure. For me, the measure piece was always very important. Like
Have
I
you
want to
guys seen Top
clearly
Gun 2?
say again.
Have you seen the second Top Gun?
I've not seen it yet.
No.
It was pretty cool because they had this thing where they were going to go, and it was this basically everybody that was flying thought it was an unachievable goal, and then somebody showed them that it was achievable.
Was his
And
name
that was-
Tom?
Yes.
Damn it, you spoiled it.
But just saying exactly what you're saying is that you
Yeah.
want this goal that may not seem achievable to people.
You want to be
but it is.
challenged. You want to be
Yes.
challenged.
You need that challenge. And but it has to, and it's achievable because you can see other businesses have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to push.
Absolutely.
I think
One of the best meetings that I remember was when we first started meeting together, and Andy Bailey did that goal meeting, and it was just, I had never had any experience in that, and it's great to just sit down and have somebody show you how to make goals, even though you think it's easy. You might think it's easy.
I personally can't say enough good things about Andy Bailey. So I got introduced to him the same time you did. I know I don't remember if he was a certified EOS instructor or if it was Rockefeller. I think he was EOS, but
I think it was EOS too.
In any case, like the material that he puts out, they've got free stuff on their page too. If you Google Andy Bailey, EOS coach, he has his agenda for quarterly meetings, for annual goal planning, things like that. I still use that today. I find it phenomenal. I shared that with all the guys in my EO peer groups. They all found it very helpful. He has a great structure. I've even tried bringing him into some of like Eisner Amper's planning meetings, and I've recommended him to other businesses because anything I've ever seen him do was just, there was so much value provided. So yeah, I mean, if anybody's ever looking for a coach, I feel like Andy Bailey's group is probably phenomenal. On the Rockefeller Habit side, Vern Harnish's group is Gazelles. I don't know any other implementers. If you're in South Florida and you're looking for somebody, I do know a few EOS implementers as well. So can feel free to ping me on LinkedIn or email me, and I can share. But yeah, Andy Bailey's great. Have you guys used any type of coach or implementer as part of your process going through any of these?
I haven't. No.
Just taking all of the
It's one of my goals.
knowledge
Though.
I'm sharing.
It's one of my goals. It's in the 5-year plan.
So I mean, I don't have anything else. I can summarize a few items. But did you guys have anything else that you think?
I mean, I think we touched on the there's a lot of information there. It's not something that's easily just it's kind of just a broad overview and a couple of name drops. And but I think that was
Yeah.
the goal for today, if you will.
So, get some type of framework, I think is really good advice. And, going through it yourself with a book, if you're that kind of person that can do that and you can hold yourself accountable for getting through it, I mean, that's great. But also, don't hesitate to, whether you're using a direct coach or even a group like EO. I know there's others out there. I used EO, I felt like it was helpful, but there's others out there. The weekly accountability meetings, making sure you back up all of your goals right towards your 5-year, then 3-year, then 1-year, and quarterly plans. Making sure the goals are SMART goals. Again, we talked about calling them rocks, so that it's a big enough goal that doesn't feel like you can just knock it out in a week, but it's still attainable. And then we shared some books. Traction, we mentioned Rockefeller Habits. There's plenty out there. I mean,
And they are easy reads. They're not.
Yeah.
It's not going to twist your mind reading it. They apply real life scenarios in the books, and it's a breeze to go through, and you'll understand it at the end of the book. And it's one of those things where you read it and then you actually have a little bit of adrenaline, and you want to get this implemented. Like, yeah, I can do that. Why aren't I doing that? That's what we found with that. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to implement than it is to read, though.
Yeah.
But I've read it twice.
And how much of it do you have implemented? It's tough. It's tough.
It's
Yeah.
Again, like I said, you may take a piece of it and use it, whether it's a level 10 meeting format, and that alone is all you need. Or you're not doing weekly accountability. You know what? Why aren't I? Why do I have to kind of ad hoc find out what's going on with? And it's not just one department; it's the entire organization, and that's what's key, is everybody's involved.
Yeah, and in the beginning, I was even setting some of my quarterly rocks around the implementation around some of these processes, because I felt like it was just going to be that beneficial. Yeah, no, really
Cool.
good stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, that was a great meeting. Same time next
we'll
week.
be doing next week.
Or are we out?
We're in Nashville, but we can do it, Dave. Right? I mean, if we have time, we'll squeeze it in. You'll find us on follow our social media. You'll see where we are.
So same time next week, Wednesday, 1:30.
1:30 Eastern.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Sounds
Great,
good.
guys.
Thanks.
Thanks. You guys have a good day.
You too.
Take care, guys.